Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Clark, Town Administrator for the Town of Harwich. Today I decided to take a little change from the way I normally do this presentation and wanted to focus on, at last year's town meeting, there was a single-use plastic bag prohibition ban put into place. That ban called for the phasing out of single-use plastic bags. What I would like to try to do today is to focus on what that actually means in the community and what are some of the alternatives. First and foremost, I think it's important that the residents that put together this petition article that presented it did it, I believe, based upon the health considerations and environmental considerations. That when single-use bags get into the environment, you run the risk of these becoming airborne and hurting animals. Sea turtles will try to eat these, or birds will try to swallow them. I guess they view them as potentially being like a jellyfish type of creature. So they do present some environmental hazards to the animals and creatures in our environment. So as I was kind of joking with my counterpart here this morning or this afternoon, that it kind of falls sometimes to government to try to explain what we're trying to do and the reasons for it. This was a citizen's petition. It was voted by town meeting. It was reviewed and approved by the Attorney General's office for the Commonwealth of Mass, and so now the responsibility is to actually implement this. So we are implementing it with the effective date of June 15th, 2016. So that will be the effective date that the Board of Selectmen reviewed and approved. One thing I want to make sure that we have very crystal clear is that this is basically an establishment regulation. So establishments that use single-use plastic bags that are less than 2.5 mils are the ones that we're trying to prevent. I have a couple of samples here that I wanted to show, but I think it's important to note that this is based upon the distribution. So if you were to be walking into a store and you brought some of your bags with you and you happen to have an older bag with you, a single-use one, we're not interested in giving tickets to people or citing people. In fact, what we want to really accomplish first and foremost is let's try to educate people as to what we're doing so people have a sense for it. And then more specifically, let's educate people to what the law actually says, the bylaw actually says. So this is not an individual prohibition, it's an establishment prohibition. So establishments that distribute it are the ones that we want to try to effectuate a change in behavior. Ultimately, bylaws do, the intent of bylaws to do that, to promote a change in behavior. So a couple of, I think most people are pretty familiar with the single-use bag, the one that you can kind of see the more obvious integrated handles. These are pretty common as you go to various stores. One of the things that they have in here, though, is that what types of bags are excluded from that. So there are plastic bags that will look like the ones potentially, but not necessarily intended for that. A couple of ones they have, when you go to the dry cleaners and you have a plastic bag over your suit or clothing that you may have dry cleaned, that's excluded. Also newspapers, that sometimes you'll see little bags are used to wrap a newspaper in to prevent water from damaging it as it sits on your lawn. Also small bags that have produce or people at the stores when you put meat in, as an example, or bulk food items or wet items. Those type of things, generally they don't have handles, or the handle is integrated into the bag. Those are excluded. So it's when you really get to the checkout counter and you're at the checkout counter and someone's going to hand you a bag of that nature. It would be good to have residents kind of help us with the enforcement by just reminding the store owners that that is something that is prohibited in the town of Harwich. We have gone and have sent to every known establishment that we can think of. I'm sure there will be some that we'll miss, that have these bags, to ask them to please follow the bylaw that's in place and to not use these and to buy other alternative ones. I do have some alternatives that I'd like to show. One, we have kind of a larger, thicker plastic. This one is actually, it does have the handle incorporated, but as you can see, this one is a more durable bag. I'm trying not to do any brand placement, so if you do see what brand is, please express my apologies. But what we are trying to do here is, this bag is 2.5, so this is the minimum. You have a sense for the thickness in general for the untrained eye. It's the thickness that counts. I include my eye as the untrained eye as well in that scenario. And then I think folks are pretty common or used to in the when I was a kid. Much more prevalent was the paper bags. Those are obviously an acceptable alternative. And then in each of these cases too, I mean, if you have these in your car and want to reuse them and you remember to bring them in, please bring them in. I think that's what we're attempting to accomplish. And then here, this is a little bit of a shameless promotion that the town is doing a tour de trash, where we will go around the community and pick up. And at the bottom of the screen, you'll have the date for when that tour de trash is. But this is a simple canvas bag. You see these pretty commonly, and I think that they are a good, viable alternative. I know I have a couple sets that I keep in my car, and I try to remember to bring them in. But I think it's important to just see that there are several alternatives to trying to improve the environment. I would say in my past experience, I have seen some landfills in operation, and even when you drive the Mid-Cape down here, you see these single-use bags that you get at the checkout, pretty commonly blowing all over. So it does present an environmental hazard. Certainly the townspeople have decided at last year's annual town meeting to have them be banned. So that was a vote of the town. And as I indicated, this is really related and targeted to the establishments, but I think it would be important for other people to just try to help those establishments do the right thing. So as of June 15th of 2016 is when the phase-out occurs, and as I've indicated, we have made a very good effort, I believe, to identify those establishments that we believe have these type of bags, to inform them of the need to change over. One thing I probably should mention is, under the bylaw, the store owners do have the option either to give you a bag that complies without charge, or they do have the ability to charge for bags. So that will be, as any capitalist society knows, that would be up to the individual store owners and companies to decide which direction they want to go, whether they want to charge for the bag or not. Under the bylaw, they are given the ability to do either. So just so you're aware of that. Well, hopefully this has been somewhat informative in terms of the prohibition of single-use plastic bags, and thank you for your time and attention. Christopher Clark.